Today, we're going to talk to Dr. Bowen about what causes autoimmune diseases. So, Christine, could you start out talking about infections that might cause autoimmune diseases?
Yeah, many people don't know or are not aware or underaware of the fact that these infections that we can get can actually trigger autoimmune responses. And so there are a lot of different types of infections that we might come across in our lives. And some are things like viral infections, bacterial infections, maybe parasites, especially for some of the world travelers, and then also things like fungal infections. And so these infections can do a bunch of different things that are not so great for our immune systems. So there's one thing that can happen is when you get an infection, the body is fighting this infection, but then the infection may look a little bit like some of our tissues, or it may have molecules that are similar to our tissues. This is a process called molecular mimicry, where the immune system does think that it's fighting this infection, but suddenly it's translated to the immune system attacking our tissues. And so here, when we're seeing, let's say, coronavirus or COVID-19, we learned a little bit more about how in a certain subset of the population that gets coronavirus or COVID-19 specifically, that it may go on to trigger autoimmune disease. There's something called Clostridium difficile that's a gut infection that actually can trigger infectious colitis. And so there are all of these ways that the immune system can get triggered. So this is just one of the big ones, is infections.
Thank you. Can you talk about environmental or environment causing autoimmune disease?
Yeah. And so when we think about our environment, it's not just our physical environment, it also is our emotional environment as well, or our spiritual environment. All of these pieces are things that we're interacting with. When we look at our physical environment, there can be things like mold or toxic chemicals that might be in your environment that absolutely can harm the immune system and can start triggering autoimmune processes to happen. When we look at our emotional trauma or spiritual health, how we're interacting with the world emotionally, it definitely feels like there can be this vulnerability. So it's not just that stress can create autoimmune disease or trauma can create autoimmune disease. It's the process of what those stressors cause on our system that then can allow autoimmune disease to develop. So it could be something like, having post-traumatic stress disorder, like from a traumatic event. Just that alone can suppress the body's ability to really have a healthy functioning immune system. It absolutely, there's research that is undeniable showing that some of these mental emotional impacts are absolutely they're absolutely something that can cause physical conditions to manifest. And so definitely think about your environment. So whether it's toxic exposures or whether it's toxic relationships or whatever, our environment can absolutely set us up for autoimmunity or not.
And what about food? Does it matter that food, or what food we're eating, or does that
Absolutely.
influence it?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think about the food that we're putting in our bodies, I definitely think that food or nutrition is the most therapeutic thing that we can do for our health. And then we build off of that. So it should be this foundation for health and healing and eating the right things for us. And so, dietary approaches are not one size fits all. All of us have unique needs and unique approaches to be able to help us return to health. But when we're talking about food, a lot of my patients will say, I eat a healthy diet. And I'm like, that's great. Tell me more about what it is. And then I may hear them talk a little bit more about how much they love all these foods that I know are possibly not doing as much good as they could in healing them, helping to heal them from autoimmune disease, or it might be, gut irritating or immune irritating or inflammatory foods. And so it's not that any food is really good or bad, or that you should never have this, you should always have that. But it's that when you're trying to curate reduction in inflammation and you're trying to heal your gut, that there may be specific nutritional strategies that you need to follow, even for a short period of time, to help that healing get a better chance of happening. So finding out foods that you're sensitive to, finding out foods that irritate your gut, finding out the foods that really are helping to promote healing, that's really central in our program. And it's central in my practice as well.
What about sleep and sleep disorders? How does that affect or cause autoimmune disease?
And so when we think about disrupted sleep, I think of deep and healthy sleep as being the time that the body is repairing itself. And so if we're getting disrupted sleep, then it really is disrupting other processes in the body, including its ability to repair itself. You could be eating the healthiest or healthy for you, healthy for your immune system diet, but then if you are not sleeping, then your body does not have the normal processes happening in a way to be able to prop up your system. And so sleep definitely is very important in healing.
What about the role that your digestive health plays in whether or not you develop an autoimmune disease?
So Hippocrates said it a long time ago, but all diseases begin in the gut is one of those quotes that circulates. But I definitely, especially when we're looking at the immune system, knowing that roughly 70% or more of the greater immune system of the body resides in our intestines, that would not surprise you to know that digestive health is really important in determining whether we have autoimmune disease or if we're able to recover from autoimmune disease. We definitely want to appease the gut microbiome balance, appease the immune system balance in the intestines to be able to help to give us that healthy foundation for recovering from autoimmune disease. So the digestive tract and the microbiome, and the digestive tract, it prevents our bodies from absorbing toxins from our environment. The digestive tract is key in trying to protect us from things entering our bloodstream that should not be entering our bloodstream. The digestive tract is also a key piece in deciding whether or not we're going to be absorbing our nutrients from our food or not. And so this is really pivotal. Digestive health is very pivotal in helping us to recover from autoimmunity.
Great, thank you. And I guess the last thing I'll ask while we're on this is, what about the genetic component causing autoimmunity?
Yeah, so there are very few purely genetic or inherited autoimmune conditions, but there are many autoimmune conditions that may have some hereditary or genetic component. So just because your grandma or your sibling has rheumatoid arthritis does not necessarily mean that you are destined to develop it. But there may be that hereditary or inherited component, plus also some of these environmental factors or infections that then will start to turn on these autoimmune conditions. And so it's very rarely purely genetic, but there is often a component of increased risk of developing autoimmune diseases because it's in your family.
Great, thank you. Can I just summarize? We talked about several different causes of autoimmune diseases. We talked about infections. We talked about environment, both physical and emotional environment, which you captured some things around toxins, but also stress and trauma, the food that we're eating, sleep, compromised digestive health, and genetics.
These are a lot of the main triggers. And so if you understand this, then it means that you can have strategies in each of these areas. And then that really will give you the best possible chance of healing and recovering as a whole human being and not just an autoimmune disease or collection of symptoms, right? You are worth it.
Thanks so much.
Please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when we post new content.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook and other social media.